Hey everyone, it's Nella here with a video talking about Lies to Children, which is Alwyn's story. Um, First, a little explanation of what the title means. A lie to children is actually a term that I think was coined in Science of Discworld. Um, and it's what I can actually bring up the definition from the book. A lie to children is a statement that is false, but which nevertheless leads the child's mind towards a more accurate explanation, one that the child will only be able to appreciate if it has been primed with the lie. Um, Another way of saying that is it's a simplified explanation of a complex concept or mechanism often encountered in science and philosophy and that sort of stuff. That it's the first step on being able to fully understand the concept, or more accurately understand the concept. A good example is actually in high school, you get taught the Bohr model for the atom. With the orbits and the rings and the electrons are all floating around. When you get to university, they go, it's a lot more. They went, well, that was good enough for when you're in high school. But now you're learning this in more depth, so you need to know, just toss that out of your head because that's not entirely accurate. And that isn't accurate enough. The truth is far more complex. So that's where the title is a reference to. This video is specifically going to be talking about the villain of Lies to Children. And the villain is Nata, the mistress of magic who taught Faust and Mordred magic. I'll actually do a little chart. There'll be a little chart right now. And that chart was just showing how Nata taught both Faust and Mordred magic, and Faust is teaching Alwyn magic, and Mordred is teaching Ethel magic. So that's how that little magical hierarchy works. Nata is actually one of the freakiest characters I've come up with. She actually really gives me the willies, just because I know that people like her exist in the world. Also, interesting little side note, actually, I kind of feel like because Flair's story doesn't have a villain, I kind of took all of that villainy and put it into Nata, and that maybe that's why she's so terrifying. So Nata is very manipulative and power thirsty. The two things she cares most about in the world are control and power. And she will manipulate just about anyone to try and get more power for herself so she can control the things around her more. Actually, a very good example of that is just how she taught Faust and Mordred magic. She made sure that she would be the most important person, and pretty much the only person, that they had contact with in their formative years. It's pretty much the same story with Mordred, so I'll focus on Faust. She took Faust from his family when he was about 6. Faust was actually from a very large family, but he was constantly very sick. He was a very sickly child, and it's kind of expected that he was just going to die young. Nata came up, and she did something to Faust's parents to make them agree to let her take him away. And Faust actually has had no contact since with his family. He has no clue if his twin sister is still alive. He has no clue if he's an uncle. He has absolutely no clue on any of that stuff because he had no contact with his family past the age of 6. Mordred was a similar story, except for Mordred wasn't from a large family, he was from a small family. But a similar thing, Mordred has not had contact with his family since the age of 6. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, first up, Nada's plan, isolate the child. She actually further isolated them because she was teaching both of them simultaneously. So she had Faust was staying in a house in one country, and Mordred, though those weren't their names at the time, those are the names they've since been given as master magicians. And Mordred was living in a house in a different country. Nada put spells on the doors so that the boys couldn't leave the houses. And she also made sure that the only thing that they'd be able to talk to, so they wouldn't go insane from not talking to anyone, the only thing they could talk to was she had created these essentially magical illusions for them to talk to so they could socialize. But those are essentially extensions of herself. So at the age of 13, she introduced them to each other. And that's when she started teaching them together. And when the two boys, in their mid-teens, started to sort of have feelings for each other, she actually encouraged this, which you may think, oh, that's strange. I thought the only relationship that was allowed was between an apprentice and their master. Yeah, Nada's also aware of that rule, but she kind of went, wait, if my apprentices are in a relationship together, that actually strengthens my ties to both of them. It strengthens my control over both of them. So she actually used a bit of her magic and sent it through both of their psychic links to kind of push the boys together. This is part of why when Faust and Mordred become master magicians, their relationship falls apart, because they kind of realized how much they've been manipulated into being with each other. Like I said, Nada is really manipulative. She also doesn't really see Faust and Mordred as independent people. She actually sees them more as something she can use and control. She sees them as tools. So when Faust and Mordred become master magicians themselves and go off independently and doing things independently, and also try to cut their ties to Nada, she takes great offense to this and decides to pursue them and track them down. Which is pretty much what's going on for a lot of Alwyn's story, is Faust is constantly moving Alwyn around and is trying to find a safe place for them, while also teaching Alwyn magic and hiding the fact that they are being chased. Yeah. I don't know, Faust is one of those characters that he thinks that if he hides how severe the situation is, then that somehow makes it better for the other person in the situation, and it doesn't. It really doesn't. Nada usually sticks to the shadows. She's kind of more of a background influence. And she actually has quite a high standing in a number of the societies of magical practitioners. In part because her magic is so strong, but also for the fact that she taught 2 apprentices simultaneously, and both of those apprentices took apprentices of their, both those former apprentices took apprentices of their own within 2 years of becoming master practitioners. So, magician is the title that Faust has. illusionist is the title that Mordred has. And yeah, so it's not like Faust and Mordred can kind of turn to other practitioners of magic for help, because if they try to do so, then Nata will surely find out where they are. Actually, note about Faust and Mordred's names. As I might have mentioned this in this video, I'm not sure. It's been almost 10 minutes. But Faust and Mordred, those are not the names that their parents gave them. Those were the names that they received when they became master practitioners of magic. And Nata was actually the one that chose their names. Which kind of makes it interesting that Faust is, of course, named after, is obviously, his namesake is a magician that made a deal with the devil, and Mordred, his namesake is the bastard son of King Arthur, who kills King Arthur, and then dies in battle. Yeah, I don't know what Nata was going with that, but that's why they have those names. They actually both kind of had embarrassing names from their parents. Faust's birth name was Hansel, and I mentioned he has a twin sister. His twin sister was named Gretel. And yes, this was because 16-year-old me thought that was like a really funny idea, and now I just feel kind of bad for naming him that. And Mordred's birth name is Percy, because I thought that'd just be hilarious. Oh gosh. Yeah, but this, I know it's been a very long video, but that's Nata, and that's Nata, the villain of Lies to Children.